Simeon, I have been entertaining y'all with just random poetry and stuff that I had in my own collection, but this is the actual work I'm doing this year. I Blew Up Juarez is a novel that I started back in 2010 and I completed in October of last year. So as of February of this year, I've been in the throes of editing. So Trace Taylor Publishing out of Gulfport is publishing my work. She's also my editor. She can't join us tonight because she has class at Eckerd College. But she's my editor. We've been working diligently. My hope is that you will see this book available as an e-reader or print on demand by Veterans Day. That's the goal. And if not, well, obviously, we're only just making it better, and that's why you haven't seen it yet. But just to give you an idea of the type of writing I do, it's science fiction, but I do try to do cosmic consciousness kind of things, you know, dealing with the metaphysical and where are we going as a society, and kind of picking up where Arthur C. Clarke left off as far as the question of humanity and what does it mean when we encounter these supernatural events and phenomena. So, I Blew Up Juarez is a book about a career criminal who gets initiated by the super species to carry out their diabolical plan for Earth. And basically, it's a question of humanity. You know, as far as the digital age goes, where is this apathy and disillusionment that this predetermined society we've become take us? Where are we going from here? What does it mean spiritually, physically, societally speaking? And the protagonist of this story, her name is Juarez, and you're about to meet her. And she is a representation of this apathy and disillusionment. So it is her odyssey of coming known into awareness and consciousness that there is another species out there, but also getting to know more about herself and what her potential is beyond the physical self. And so I shall read from Chapter 1, I Blew Up Juarez. He said to call him Mighty Max, smugly. With a sick mix of hubris and denial, the 60-something oil man from Denton, Texas, insisted upon the nickname. Her shoulders lurched forward incredulously as she stymied the want to laugh in his face. To do so would blow her cover. Mighty Max continued to express his mightiness at her left ear. His white furred lips tickled the ridges of her lobe. Her disgust bordered on gagging. Any woman would have bolted at this point, but her plan to scheme him kept the reflex down. Johnny observed Mighty Max engaging in Humperdinck's happy hour for the past few weeks, always parking his cherry red 1964 Chevy Chevelle convertible in the designated handicap parking out front. Mighty Max was garish and repulsive. His face was bulldog. He wore an ear stud to complement the salt and pepper ponytail, all that remained of his hair, which had receded to the back of his head eons ago. There it was, the engraved key fob with the keys splayed between the two glasses of liquor. Every outburst of laughter she provided towards his sad attempts at flirtation moved her drinking hand closer and closer towards the keys. She distracted him by curving her back deeply to draw his attention to her breasts. It was no use. He kept returning his line of sight to the bar, to the keys, his prized possession, his baby. Johnny wanted to take his car. The fact that he was such a douche was going to make it that much more enjoyable. Johnny felt his liver-spotted hand grasp her left thigh and give it a firm squeeze. She playfully jumped in response, enticing him to move upward and squeeze more. Through his drunken slurring, he suggested, "Let's go to my place." "Where do you live?" she asked while adjusting her bra, lifting one full breast at a time, encouraging him. His eyes followed her every move. "Flower Mound. Not far. Don't say no. I'll take good care of you. Come on. I promise to bring you home in the morning." His begging, while terribly sad for a man who calls himself Mighty Max, made it pretty clear that this was going to be an in-and-out job. He slapped his hand over the key fob. He smiled, revealing decades of heavy smoking and missed dental exams. The desire to gag returned. She refocused from his nasty smile to the red Chevy Chevelle. "I'll be a gentleman. I promise. No funny stuff. I like you, Consuela. You're a good girl. Come on, let Daddy take you home." As he said this, his hand slipped toward the crevasse between Johnny's thighs. She stopped him by squeezing her legs together and at the same time, imagine plunging her Stanley knife into his right eye. He's lucky she wasn't able to wear this dress. Mighty Max caught the glint of fire in her eyes and assumed it was the yes he was waiting for. He picked up the car keys and waved them in Johnny's face. Johnny smiled. Maybe she'd find something to stab him with in the eye, but not until she had the keys. Now, the trick was to get through the night without letting those gross lips touch her body. The two nestled in the cherry red classic. Johnny's cherry red mini dress complemented the car's exterior and Mighty Max's cherry red face. In her best Consuela impression, she said, "You have a pretty car." "Not as pretty as you are, Pumpkin." He slurred as he fidgeted for the ignition switch. "Max? Mighty Max, Consuela. My name is Mighty Max." "Right. Mighty Max, do you want me to drive? You seem to be a little..." "Oh, little girl, this here is a manual transmission. Girls can't understand the stick shift. You better leave the drive with Daddy." Consuela's geriatric pimp made the four-lane Sam Ray Highway his personal Texas Motor Speedway as he swerved his way towards Flower Mound. Johnny watched the speedometer tack perilously close to 100 miles an hour. She held on by digging her fingers into the white and black cowhide seat beneath her and locked her knees together for stability. Horrible, horrible plan. Why didn't I just knock him out and take the car? She lamented to herself. But then less for better payouts. She saw Mighty Max's head bobbing backwards. "Hey!" she screamed as she smacked it forward for him. Mighty Max shook it off like a sneeze. "Here we go," he mumbled as he downshifted into the gated community. "Fucking asshole," she thought. Mighty Max slowed in front of a brick-framed entrance and headed his car down a private street lined with aged mountain cedar. Johnny shifted her plan from car theft to extortion when they entered a courtyard doubling as a parking lot. The car came to a stop at the base of the granite steps leading up to the wide wooden double-cedar doors. Johnny climbed out of the car and looked ahead. The gravestone mansion stood 4 stories high, was wide enough to envy Cowboys Stadium. She eyed the placard against the main wall. Caldwell Estates, established in 1963. The car was going to be a decent grab. Mighty Max managed to climb out and make his way around the car to Johnny, took her arm and, staggering, escorted her up the steps and through the double doors. Yeah, she thought, this could prove most profitable. She conjured up Consuela again. Ooh, and an eye in the decor of the foyer, the pink marble floor, the expansive hallway that led them to the sitting room, and a fully stocked bar. Johnny had barely eased her purse onto the bar before Mighty Max enveloped her from behind. She cringed at the smell of his tarred teeth nibbling at her neck. His old, arthritic fingers wrapped around each breast and started squeezing heartily. He ground his pelvis into her. She laid on some heavy breathing, hoping to give him an erection so she could get him out of his clothes, naked, vulnerable. He pumped her aggressively while biting her down on her shoulder, growing agitated. His useless thrusting was irritating Johnny and pushing her to break character. Just in time, though. Mighty Max released his vice grip from her tits and pulled his body away. Using the insides of her arms, she massaged her sore breasts and pushed him back into position. Johnny shifted her dress back to him in disgust. I know what we need. Mighty Max stumbled around the bar to fish around in the drawer. Excitedly, he withdrew a zip bag full of powder that he tossed to Johnny and landed directly in front of her. I know you Mexican girls love some blood. His knees buckled in an attempt to saunter sexily over to the heavily pillowed couch, just a few feet from where he stood. He crawled across the floor from where he fell and made his way onto the couch. He began to unbutton his shiny striped shirt to reveal an ancient chest and cirrhotic belly. Come here, do some lines off my body. A small amount of stomach acid crept up into the back of Johnny's throat. The thought of doing coke off his fuzzy, bloated guts sobered her completely. You first, baby, she suggested. She cut and lined the snow for her daddy against the glass top of his coffee table. He snorted one line per nostril, rubbing his nose along the table like a greedy hog working a trough. Then he lifted his torso and sunk back, his eyes wide and red, signaling the arrival of cocaine to the booty. Your turn, pumpkin booty. His words slurred as he melted back against his couch. Mighty Max undid his belt and zipper, reached through his boxers, and flopped out 2 inches of unmighty Max. He proceeded to tug violently at the head of his penis with the tips of his thumb and forefinger. The sight of the man pulling feverishly at the flaccid organ was mortifying. His face contorted as he immolated himself, the flesh stretching and shrinking, failing to engorge. He began to cry. Oh, hell no. Johnny was done being Consuela. She stood from the couch, clasped his zip bag, and strode on long legs towards the door. Mighty Max tried to reassemble his clothes and ran after her at the same time. Now hang on, Consuela. You hang on now. Consuela, don't get mad at Mighty Max. We can still have fun. Come on, girl. Stop walking. Johnny paused at the entryway table, lifted the car keys, and headed out the double doors. Mighty Max gasped at the sight of Johnny climbing in behind the steering wheel of his precious car. Now hang on. Let me get my pants on. I'll drive you home. Before he got the last words out, he tripped over his pants and careened forward, tobogganing down the steps to the landing. Johnny twisted the key and shifted the gear to neutral. The sound of the engine whitened Max's red face. Johnny smiled as she primed the engine with a few pumps to the accelerator. Max struggled to stand. He attempted to sound demanding, but ended up pleading. Oh, come on now, woman. Where are you going? Hang on, wait for me. She held in the brake, floored the accelerator, and offered the man a healthy burnout. The exhaust knocked him back down on his knees. Johnny shifted to second gear and exited the courtyard. She glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 11 p.m. The wrecking crew will be in the West End by now. Johnny heard a desperate wail. Consuela! She waved her middle finger in the air to him. Goodbye, Mighty Max. And that's the end of chapter 1. Thank you.
Wow. And how much is it going to be when you get it?
We haven't formatted it yet, but we are at about 87,000 words.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with editing, who knows what will happen. And then if I add stuff, we're hoping to keep it under 100,000. So ideally, it'll just keep rolling along like that, one crazy adventure after another. And I hope y'all get a chance to experience it this year. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.